Now today I'll be doing a retrospective on a wannabe blockbuster that had high ambitions but unfortunately turned into a critically maligned disaster.
This is Jake Ferris. She's about to bet everything, and we mean everything, that she can turn the next guy she meets into a singing sensation.
All right. The next normal person that comes by, I'll take him. The next one.
Okay.
I mean, the next guy that passes in front of my face.
Whoa! How you doing? Nice night. Need a lift?
Coming to you from a basement studio somewhere down under. It's the 80s Show with Australia's Retro Man. On tonight's show, Retro Man does part one of his retrospective on the country and western romance Rhinestone. Well, what are we waiting for? Lights, camera, Retro Man.
G'day viewers, Retro Man here and welcome to the 80s Show. Now today I'll be talking about a wannabe blockbuster that had high ambitions but turned into a critically maligned film, unfortunately. The film is Rhinestone, starring Sylvester Stallone and Dolly Parton. Wow, what a teaming. This film was a country and western themed romantic comedy. It came out in 1984. I remember seeing it back in the day, and I've seen it a few times over the years, and I must say I still find it a very fun film. And the critics really got the knives out and sharpened them, and I think really it's a bit of an underrated film. It's very light-hearted. There's some good country songs in this, and there's some very interesting performances and quite the chemistry going on between Stallone and Dolly Parton. Now, I decided to dust off my old DVD copy the other day and check it out. I hadn't seen it for about 15 years, so I thought, why not put on Rhinestone and see how it holds up? Now, this is a film that doesn't really turn up on TV anymore. It's not on streaming services. It has never made it to Blu-ray, and if you're lucky to have a print of it, you're lucky to have a print of it. It's a film that just sort of disappeared. Not many people talk about it. It wasn't a success, but Sylvester and Dolly are in it. You've got two of the biggest stars in the world in the 80s coming together for this quirky little film.
I was reading the script and I thought it would be great if he would do it, and he thought it would be good if I would do it. So it was like one of those things that was just a natural. And then when we met, it seemed to be like the real magical thing, and I just loved him. I thought he was so pretty. I thought, well, I'd at least like to spend 4 months around a good-looking hunk like that. So.
subtle.
What are you, Jane Wayne?
Now, the film is called Rhinestone, and it takes its title from the Glen Campbell song Rhinestone Cowboy. Rhinestone, the title, is also a reference to the honky-tonk bar that Dolly Parton works in. She sings in this bar called the Rhinestone, and she has a really sleazy boss played by Ron Liebman. Now, how Stallone comes into the picture is he's a happy-go-lucky New York cab driver. And one night, Ron Liebman says to Dolly Parton, because they have this thing on stage where they test out singers and they usually go south, and he says to her, well, I bet that you can't turn just an everyday guy into a country and western sensation. And Dolly's up for the challenge. She takes that bet, and in comes Stallone in his ramshackled cab. He sort of has an accident outside the Rhinestone Club. And then next minute, Stallone is caught up in this bet, and Dolly decides to take Sly back to her hometown to turn him into this country and western star so she can get out of this nauseating contract with Ron Liebman and she can get a life and career back. So the film is a little bit maybe implausible, a little bit hokey, but the thing is it's full of energy. It's actually bubbling with some sort of infectiousness, because Dolly Parton at the time, she was riding a bit of a wave. She was in 9 to 5, and then she was in The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas with Burt Reynolds. And then all of a sudden she's in Rhinestone, and it's top tier pairing with Sly Stallone. And Sly Stallone, as you know, Mr. Rocky, I mean, he'd done 3 Rocky films at that point. He'd actually just done the big blockbuster Rocky 3, that was the pinnacle. And he'd also been in the first Rambo film, First Blood, at this point. And then all of a sudden he's put in this film with Dolly Parton. And I think what Sly wanted to do was he wanted to show his versatility. And he really is a versatile kind of guy. And he directed Staying Alive, that Saturday Night Fever sequel with John Travolta, which also had a slew of Frank Stallone songs in it, Frank being his brother. He played on the soundtrack. He had that hit song Far From Over, which is an absolute cracker. And basically Sly must have felt, well, look at Frank here. He's the musician. I'm the guy that just lifts weights and makes movies. And he thought, well, maybe what I should do is get involved with Dolly Parton in this little romantic country and western comedy and try to do some singing myself. So Frank's really the singer in the family, let's get that straight. But Sly is having a lot of fun in Rhinestone. He really he's up for the joke, essentially. I mean, you don't make a movie like this unless you are willing to be sort of the guy that is the subject of the pratfall, the joke. And he's this New York cabbie. He's a bit brash, but at the same time he's this happy-go-lucky character. So we had 2 super celebrities, Sly Stallone and Dolly Parton, coming together for Rhinestone. And this film was to be directed by Mike Nichols, the guy that gave us The Graduate, you know, that film with that spectacular Simon and Garfunkel soundtrack. Now, this movie didn't end up being made by Mike Nichols. All of a sudden, 20th Century Fox brought in Bob Clark. Bob Clark is the guy that gave us Porky's. You know, that little Canadian film that went through the roof and made $100 million. So Bob Clark from Porky's steps in, takes over the production of Rhinestone, and on paper, Sly was involved in the screenplay of this thing. It was a little bit darker at the start. It was a darker comedic thing. And then Bob came in and it sort of, the tone lightened a little bit.
Last night I went out honky-tonky.
What's your pitch? Get the tempo up a little.
Dressed up in my very best. Looking for an evening's pleasure.
Yes, get good.
Nothing more and nothing less.
But that's not all I have to say about Rhinestone. Look out for part 2 of my Rhinestone retrospective coming soon to this channel.
Hey, Tennessee, you've been a fine audience.
So there we have it, guys. Rhinestone with Sly Stallone and Dolly Parton and all those quirky songs. Hey, it's been nice talking about this film. It's a film that doesn't get a lot of attention, and I'm happy to talk about it. So that's Rhinestone from '84. So that's it for today, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. This is Retro Man, living the dream, 80s style. Stay gold.
Thanks for watching. Retro Man will return faster than a boomerang and with an outfit just as impressive as Sly Stallone in Rhinestone. Way to go, Rock! Please subscribe and good night, viewers.